Coming up on The Returned.
A flash. I didn't have a chance to say goodbye to anybody. I wasn't willing to die. I was 21 years old. My consciousness crystallized above me, and I have full spherical vision. I can see my body laying there. I was looking at this broken shell that I've been hosting for such a long time, and I thought, there's no coming back from that. Like this is it. It's time to go home.
Hi, and welcome to The Returned. Here's to everything we'll discover together. Hi, and welcome to The Returned. If you're new here, I'm MJ. Here we share near-death stories, out-of-body experiences, spiritual awakenings, signs from spirit, and the journeys of healers and light workers from around the world. Today, I am very, very honored to welcome Ryan John. He had an extraordinary journey of awakening and transformation after his near-death experience. Ryan, welcome to The Returned.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on your show. It just means so much to me that I could spread my message out there and all the cool, interesting stuff that I've learned.
You're so welcome, Ryan. Ryan, before we dive in to the heart of your experience, could you tell us a little bit about who you were before and what your belief was prior to your near-death experience?
I could truly say that I was agnostic, so that means that I just don't know. I just how can I put it? Uh, I just didn't know what to make of life, because I hear so many different things out there, and it's just a world of confusion out there. You know, I just remained a healthy skeptic towards a lot of stuff. I was kind of like, I have to experience it for me to know it, rather than what other people are telling me about any book or whatever.
Mhm.
So and I guess I was always a spiritual person without even realizing it. A lot of this stuff started to make sense to me afterwards, after I got a head injury and had a very spiritual experience from going to the other side and stuff like that. And so, um, how else can I put it? Um, I was very open to psychedelics and stuff, but I just didn't know if there was an afterlife or not.
And with that in mind, Ryan, can you walk us back through that day of your near-death experience in 2020?
Yeah, for sure. So, October 14th, 2020, I was 21 years old. And so I was in Prince Albert here. I was going to actually, before I begin, it's going to be a really graphic story. So just for anyone that can't handle blood or whatever, just skip ahead to whatever. I'm sure you got the little time stamp to do that or whatever. But
Actually, thank you for that. I'll remember to actually put that before the video. Thank you,
oh
Ryan.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So let's go through the graphic part here. So yeah. So anyways, back in 2020, I was 21 years old at the time, and so I was uh, I was visiting my mother back then, and I was saying, "Hey, I'm kind of hungry tonight. How about you cook up some chili?" She was like, "No, I'm a little too tired," and I didn't know how to cook back then, so I was always going to restaurants and stuff like that. So I said, "Oh, it's fine, I'll just uh, I'll just go to buy some pizza, and I'll be right back." And I come home with a large pizza, and I have a really large appetite, so it was like a large pizza I ordered that time. So I told my mother, I said, I'll be right back, and little did she know I was not gonna make it home that night. And so I go driving, I went driving over to the Boston Pizza, and then I seen my friend Chad, who was the manager at the time at the Boston Pizza. So I placed my order, I'm sitting down and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting and waiting. And about 3 or 4 minutes goes by, and I look on my phone for a while. I was like, "Ah, whatever, put it away," just looking around. Then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, there's this person named uh Trent Fox, who was in a gang called West Side Outlaws, and he's a very troubled person. And I later learned that he was high on meth for 5 days, and he was drinking that day. And so he comes running into the restaurant, and I'm in a lobby area, comes running at me full speed. Then he pulls out a 4-inch hunting knife. And before I had time to see what was going on or to react or whatever, he stabbed me right in the back of the head, right here. And I was immediately just gushing blood. It went all over his hand. And then I was instantly stunned. And I could literally see the blade entering my head. I could see this silver grayish uh, blade or whatever go past my vision in and out. And I could just see it because the cord behind your eyes can still receive light and all that. I don't know how I was able to see that, but he stabbed me in the back of the head, and I stood up and I took a couple steps back, instantly stunned, and I'm dizzy, and my ear is ringing like crazy, and I'm bleeding and stuff. I'm thinking, what the hell's going on? What did he hit me with here? And then before I had the chance to kind of gain my composure, he grabbed me by my vest, pulled me in, and then he stabbed me in the jaw right here. And I felt it instantly tilt my jaw and then dislocate it to my right side. And it was the loudest bone cracking, meat grinding sound I've ever heard. The most violent thing I've ever felt in my life. And so this guy is so angry at me for some reason. I don't know why. So he's yelling at me, you effing snitch, why you snitch me out like that? And then my friend, who is the manager, he was in the employee room or the security room or whatever. He watched me get stabbed on camera. So, and now he has to come up to the front and deal with what's going on. So I took a couple steps back, and I'm hanging onto my head here, like to where the wound was. And I used to have long hair past my shoulders, so I couldn't find where the second wound was. And so he's kind of going towards me some more. And I'm thinking he's going to finish me off with a third stabbing, I thought. Like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know how to react. And, nobody prepares you for this situation. So my friend here, he very heroic here. He came to the front, and then he seen what was going on. Then he yelled at him, told him to get out. And so then he left. And then my friend, he called the cops, and it just so happened that right across the parking lot at Burger King, there was a cop truck there. And so they whip around the corner, and they caught Trent Fox trying to steal a vehicle using a knife for some reason, trying to open it up. And so he's just out of his mind there. So they're pointing guns at him, telling him to freeze. He dropped the knife. They arrest him. And then meanwhile, I am gushing blood everywhere. And then there's this other girl who came from the kitchen wondering what's going on. Why is everyone yelling and stuff like that? And so she comes to see me. She looks at me. She screams, cries, turns around, and runs away. And I thought, okay, this is a bad sign. I thought, this is not going good. I thought. And so I look down, and there's like a puddle this big of blood in between my legs. I get stabbed, twice, and I'm hanging on for my life here. Every second that goes by counts, and I wasn't ready to say goodbye or anything like that, so that I'm gonna hang on for dear life here. And so cops get called, and then they surround the whole building, and then there's red and blue lights are flashing, and my eyes are getting sensitive to the light and stuff. So anyways, that girl, she comes back with a 2 to 3 inch stack of like paper towel. She puts it on my head, and then blood is dripping down her arm, and she's shaking. She's so scared. She doesn't know what's gonna happen next, because we didn't know, and nobody knew what was gonna happen. And for all she knew, she would have been a target too. So everybody is has a lot of fear. We're just heightened lots by the fear. And so I couldn't find where the hole was in the back of my head. And so I start digging around in my really thick, luscious hair I used to have. I used to be, and so I'm digging around, and I felt my brain lobe. I'm like, and then it would sting me going all the way down my spine. So I thought, okay, there's the hole. So I put my hand there, and I'm hanging on to that. And then the girl's hanging onto my head right here, and we're both just dripping blood everywhere. I'm just like dark red, covered head to toe. My skin started to go gray, and then I was starting to get dizzy, and then so as my friend Chad, he goes out to go face Trent Fox and out by the door and stuff. So I thought if he stabs him, he's gonna come after me and finish me off. I can't allow that to happen. I have to be by his side. I was not thinking about my family at the time. I was thinking about trying to save the people at the workers at the Boston Pizza. So I thought I gotta follow him, and if I have to, I'll go in front of him and I'll try to tackle him. If he stabs me a third time, at least he has a chance. That was quickly going through my mind, all that. So I started walking up to him, tried to go up to Trent Fox and stuff. And then as he's outside, and then near the door, um, my the manager there, yells at me, says, "Sit down, you're bleeding," he said. And then, so I went to go sit down, and I'm trying to control the bleeding as much as I can. And about 6 or 7 minutes at least go by. I'm still bleeding like deadly, just throughout my head here. And then the ambulance shows up, and then they show up to get me. And so I'm walking there, and then they're both kind of holding my arm and stuff, thinking that I'm gonna fall over or whatever. But I was walking and talking just fine. And I was telling them, I said, "I'm okay, I'm okay. Let's just get to the hospital," I said. And so the ambulance worker. She's the one kind of freaking out. She's wrapping the gauze around my head, like, "You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. We'll get you to the hospital and stuff." And then the cop is in the ambulance truck, and he says, "Hey, we captured the guy who did that to you. Do you know him and stuff?" I said, "No, I've never met him and stuff." It's like, "Oh, okay, well, he's heading out to the jail and stuff, or going to jail and whatever." So, and then and all of a sudden, I felt this peace overcome me. I felt absolute peace, and my heart was also beating differently. It was going dun, 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 really fast, and then as I was bleeding out my head, it was beating at one beat. Dun, 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 it was going, and it wasn't circulating. It was leaving my head basically, and so I thought, okay, if I freak out right now, I'm gonna. What happens if you're to freak out? Start hyperventilating and like, "Oh my God, I'm dying," So I thought, I can't do that. I have to stay as calm as I can be. So I put myself in a really deep meditative state where I'm controlling my breath, I'm controlling my emotions. I can't be too scared, too angry, too excited or anything. I just have to try to remain neutral, and then just try to hang on basically. And then time was starting to shift on me. Things were speeding up. 1 minute I'm stabbed, then the next second I'm in the ambulance, then the next second we're taking off. And actually before we took off here, I told a cop, I said, "Hey man, uh, can you bring my pizza to the hospital? I'm still hungry." He looked at me, he's stunned. He thought I was high on something because I wasn't reacting like a normal person would. I am really calm, so he thought I must have been so high on something that I can't feel the pain or whatever. So he was kinda like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure, I could do that." I said, "Oh, thanks." So then he bangs on the ambulance door and say, "Let's go, let's go." And so the ambulance took off really fast, and I'm swaying side to side because we're going through traffic trying to get to the Victoria Hospital. And so as soon as we made it there, as soon as I walked through the door, that's where my memory cuts out, and I didn't remember anything for like almost 5 years until I discovered hypnosis. When I started doing hypnosis, now I can recall what has happened. And so I started walking to the trauma room, got an X-ray scan, CT scan, and my cheek is just like black, basically from the dry blood. And I'm really pale and I'm just gray. And then the nurses said that I wasn't making any sense when I was talking. I was kind of mumbling a bit, yeah, on my words and stuff like that. And so they brought me to the surgery room, and here I was thinking that, "Oh, they're just gonna bandage me up a bit, and I'm gonna eat my pizza, and I'm gonna go home tonight," I thought. But no, that did not happen, and the doctor said, "Good thing you didn't eat that large pizza because you have to have an empty stomach and stuff, or you're gonna go through these surgeries and stuff like that." So, and then I mean, the nurses were saying, "Do you want to call anybody to let them know what happened? Like your mother, your father?" And I said, "No, don't call anybody. Don't tell them what happened." I said, "I don't want them to see me like this." And back then, I didn't know if this was my fault. I didn't know if I was innocent. I was convinced that somebody from high school was so jealous that they sent a hit out on me, and now some gang member is trying to kill me. And for some reason, it's my fault because, girls were talking to me. I'm trying to avoid them and talk to some of them, find out they have a boyfriend, and that a lot of drama in high school. So I thought that's what it was from. But apparently, that's not what it was at all. This person didn't know who I was. So I thought I'm just gonna deal. I'm gonna be responsible and deal with this myself. I said, and it's like okay, So they took my phone, they took off my vest and stuff, and then I started to have this really strong feeling that I was gonna go home. And I resisted that feeling because I thought, I don't care where home is, I belong here on earth. I want to die of old age here. I want to complete my life. I'm not willing to accept death. And I thought, if I see a white light, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm not going to go to it. I'm just going to hang on here. I'm not dying tonight. That's what was going through my head. Like, just avoid the light and stuff. My eyes were getting sensitive to the light, and when you're at a hospital, there's lights everywhere, and it's getting brighter, and all of a sudden, time slowed down even more and more. And then all of a sudden, the nurses were shuffling around everywhere, and it was very blurry, and I couldn't see. And then I was fully deaf on my left ear, and I was blind, partially blind in my right eye, and all that would later go away. That's how I'm able to talk to you and hear you and stuff. But at the time, though. Um, I thought, "Oh, no, I'm going blind, I'm going deaf here. Geez, how am I gonna live my life like this?" I thought, "Well, okay, just hang on, everything's gonna be okay." And then, as that thought came to me, that everything's gonna be okay, it became stronger, and I thought, "Oh, no, I'm familiar with this." I haven't seen a whole lot of NDEs, but one thing I know for sure is that, um, when you're dying and stuff, your body has a way to tell you. Your your body has a type of consciousness that is part of you. There's the subconscious and there's many different layers of consciousness and stuff. So my body was telling me that you're dying and you're going home and stuff. There was no God or higher being that told me that. It was all internal. I just knew it, and then all of a sudden time just stopped. And then I could see this old wooden door, looked like it's from the 1800s, that was floating on the ceiling. And it had these self-transforming paisley patterns that looked so beautiful. And I noted, and the moment that time stopped, I thought, this is it. I'm dead. I didn't even have a chance to say goodbye to anybody. This is so unfair. Life was just taken from me in a flash, and I didn't have the chance to prepare for it. I didn't have a chance to say goodbye to anybody. I wasn't willing to die. I was 21 years old. That's the peak of your life. Like, and here I was having all that stripped from me, all of it. Everything I've ever accomplished was being stripped away from me. And so at this point, I just accepted death. I thought this is it. There's no going back, And um so as time stopped, I was in my own time bubble. Earth time was going on and about and around me, but in my own little bubble, time just froze. And then all of a sudden, the consciousness in my body dematerialized, and my body was just like dead, this empty shell. And then, about an arm's length away, my consciousness crystallized above me, and I have full spherical vision. I could see up, down, left, right, back and forth, and I can see my body laying there. And I was looking at this broken shell that I've been hosting for such a long time, and I thought, "There's no coming back from that, like, this is it. It's time to go home," I thought. And so I was looking at the nurses and the doctors, and they're shoving the the feeding tube up my nose. They're putting a catheter up me, and they're hooking me up to life support, and they're shoving the breathing tube down my throat, and and then so I started to hover above it, and I was hovering more and more, and then I seen the number 13 on the doorknob. And I didn't know what that meant at the time, number 13, I didn't know that that was my soul's number. And so as I'm saying goodbye to everything, just in an instant like that, just saying goodbye, I opened the door on the ceiling and then I walk through it. Then all of a sudden, I'm in the most beautiful place you could ever imagine. I started off on this dock and there were many boats and yachts and it had a cool little kraken design that was flowing on the sides of the boat and and there were people on it. People were just having fun and stuff. The air was really thick and it was alive and conscious and every time you breathe, you inhale this love and this consciousness that goes in your body, and then you exhale it. And you don't exhale carbon. There's none of that. You just exhale this love as well. So every time you breathe, it's just love going in and out. And I was still wearing my vest and stuff, no blood on it or anything. And I seen this boat coming at a distance. And at the early stages of hypnosis, I couldn't recognize it right away because I kept losing myself to the beauty of this place, my and then this boat came closer and there was 6 of my family members that had passed away. And I greeted all of them. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm home. I'm home." I thought, "I finally get to see you again." I thought. And you know that feeling you've had when someone's passed away and you never had that last closure or that last talk to say goodbye?
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Mhm.
despite how tough it was, what I went through with the head injury, I had access to the afterlife and I got to see them and communication was just instantaneous. I didn't have to explain nothing to them. They just knew right away. And I seen the light connection from my head going to all of their heads. And yeah, the reason why communication is telepathic is because there's an energy that flows from your body to theirs, and you can see and feel them being there. And so they knew what I've been through. So I gave each one of them a hug and stuff. And I'm a very curious person, very scientific, I guess, and I wouldn't say
Uh-huh.
atheist or anything like that. I know that there's some higher powers and stuff like that that are and all that. So I was looking at the structures of the boat, and there were self-transforming quantum computer structures that were running this thing that is run on love, light, and consciousness. And so my family member didn't even have to hold the wheel. The boat was going just by their thought, and there were massive floating islands, just like that movie Avatar, the blue aliens,
Mhm.
The Navi or
Yep.
whatever? It
Mhm.
looked just like that. The most breathtaking, uh, landscapes you can think of, mountains and hills that were on it, and there were plants and roots at the bottom of it, and they were massive waves that would go by and then water the plants from the roots going on top. And on top of these floating islands, they had crystal cities above it. It was every color you can think of and every color that you can't think of. You are limited by your 5 senses in this three-dimensional reality, so you can't see this stuff unless you have all these extra senses and stuff. So I'm looking at all these colors, and I am so blown away by it. And, uh and there were also smaller floating islands that were circling bigger ones, just like how we kinda circle around, like the sun and the other planets. It was like that. And, I can see people, some of them can fly and float and teleport and everything. It would
Wow.
there's no limit to what your mind can do. Anything you can think of, it exists. And if it didn't exist, it wouldn't be in your mind. So every beautiful thing you can think of is on the other side. And even if it doesn't make sense, it somehow has its own rules and it makes sense on the other side. And so my family members said, "You want to explore one of these cities?" Sure. I mean, this is so amazing, I thought. So I said, okay. And I didn't know I can fly at the time, not yet anyways. So I was bound by the limitations that I thought I had. So I thought, okay, I'll go there. And so all of a sudden, this rope ladder came down. And part of this experience too in the afterlife, it's so real that even some of the fun struggles we have here, like struggling to climb a mountain, you have that on the other side as well. So this rope ladder came down from the side of these cities or these islands. So I climbed it, and I'm starting to climb up and up, and then there's sand and rocks and water hitting my face, and but nothing hurts you. But it's more real than here. Here on Earth, it's just a joke. Well, five senses and that's it. There is so many more. I don't even know how many there is. I have to go under hypnosis even more to
Yeah.
to discover it. And so I'm climbing and climbing, and then all of a sudden I'm in it. And then I could see there were these crystal gates that were in purple, and it was run by some kind of energy that is so powerful. And I remember thinking, if I just grabbed a handful of these crystals, this would be enough to power the whole world 10 times over. That is how powerful this technology is. And so I seen these two white pillars, and they had these two kind of alien beings on there. They had two arms, two legs, and stuff like that. And but they had really rocky, choppy, chalky skin. And it's kind of like the best way I can put it is that character from that Fantastic Four, that orange, that rock guy or whatever.
Mm,
He looked like,
right.
yeah, he looked like that. And and his mind was connected to these two pillar things on the sides of the gates. And then they told me from a distance, they said, "Oh, you have to go through a rehabilitation process before you can enter the city. Your heart must be full of love before you can enter it. We bring a lot of baggage from here on earth um, to the other side, and it has to be cleansed out of us. And so this is where, the healing waters, the healing lakes, and the baptisms that we see in churches and all that, that's what it's mimicking. And so
Ah.
I got to walk through it, and then there was these small bits of black tar that were on me. And as soon as I walked through it, it just stripped all of that out. And it brought back a piece of my childhood. I felt like I was 7 years old again, just pure love. And so there are other people that had different levels of it, and it took longer for some people, but nonetheless, everybody makes it through. And so there's just, and then I'm walking through these cities and stuff, and there's everything you can imagine that's there. They have its own traffic lanes. There's vehicles from the 50s and 60s that people love. They're driving them. People are up in the sky flying. Other people are surfing the waves on the side of the floating islands. And children were playing, and nobody is old. Everybody's in their 20s and 30s. But if you died as an old person and people recognize you as being 60 something, you will appear as that towards other souls. But
Hmm.
but other souls that don't really know you that well, they'll see you as like in your 20s and 30s at the peak of your age, basically. And
Interesting.
and then there were ships going there, and it kind of looked like from Star Wars in a ways. You know those gray triangular ships? And I thought, why is that
Yep.
there? Why do they need ships in the first place? And then I was later told that not everybody is dead. There are some people that in a different time that have become so advanced, so spiritually developed that they are trusted enough to go to these places and to use these technologies. You can't have you can't have technologies that go faster than light and be a bad person. You don't know what you're doing. You can split the world in half with that stuff. So you need a certain level of peace and education, and to go to some of these places to do it alive. And so I'm seeing all these other souls go through these gates and stuff, and I later learned that humans are not the only one on the other side. There are many different beings. There's greys, there's reptilians, there's the Incentoids, And I was thinking, why am I seeing these grays walking past me and stuff, you know? And there's vast jungles out there with plants I've never seen in my life. And the reason why was because on different Earth-like planets, they have their whole ecosystem is different, and their plants, the people there are all different, and everything is all in the afterlife. So you can see different different structures on how Earths were and stuff like that. And so I seen this Hindu guy. "Hey, brother, how are you?" He said. It's like, "What, brother?" Like, what? I okay, keep in mind, I'm an only child, you know, like I don't have uh, a direct biological like brother like that, you know. So I was kind of confused by that. And so he gave me a hug and stuff, and I was thinking, I don't have any connection to the Middle East. Why am I seeing these people, you know? And so he
Hmm.
says, "Yeah, I'm about to have a life review. You want to, you know, come see it and stuff?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, life review, huh?" I not knowing much about NDEs, you know, so I thought, okay, and this is all from my own experience that I'm telling about, not others, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
walk into this theater-like setting, and I could see that when people pass through the gates, a part of their soul cycles through on these two pillars, and that black tar is brought with them. It cycles through and into the city, and there's this theater-like setting, and right behind it, there's this huge ball of light that has such a profound godlike presence to it. And this thing was creating a life review, and it made a holographic screen in a theater-like setting. So I walk in here and I see thousands and thousands of people sitting there. And this Hindu guy is sitting right in the middle, and I'm sitting probably one or two rows from him. And I got to see his life review. And he was in the Middle East. I don't know what time this was, or what different Earth time it was, or whatever. But all I know was that uh, his his country, his culture, his religion, his family, his friends, they're all divided, and there's so much war going on. And apparently, what happened was a bomb had struck a building where he was staying in and killed all of his family members. And he was covered with all these rocks and cement and all that, and he's laying there and in pain, and he says like, "Why, Allah, have you done this to me?" And and he was like, I don't want God no more and stuff. Uh, and he was questioning his existence and his faith and all that. And then all of a sudden, I seen him leave his body and then go to the other side and stuff. And and a couple of things happened in there, and I'll be revealing that in my book and my YouTube channel and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, after he's seen his life review, he turned around and he was looking in the crowd, and he was the only one in that whole building that judged himself, despite the bad stuff he's done to other people. You know, they all forgave him, and there was no higher being that was judging him. We are all connected to that higher being in a sense. So he was the only one judging himself. And he was like, you know what? I got to make this right. I can't. I'm so sorry for what I did to all of you, and I'm gonna reincarnate so I can try to make it right again. I'll change the roles, you know. Maybe I'll be a woman in my next life, and in a different country or whatever, you know. A lot of lessons are
Mm,
learned in poor countries and stuff because, you know,
I
you
bet.
yeah, and you can see why, right? So um
Right.
so then after he had this whole life review thing, he took me to his house. And you know in India they have those old temples, and it's got the big ball on top of it,
Yep.
and there's like another, yeah, it was like that.
Mm-hmm.
And but except it was very beautiful crystal structures, and they're uh there's some normal looking buildings like you would see in the Vatican, but there's crystal structures inside of it as well. And so I walk in there and I can see his family, and they're using these self-transforming quantum computer structures that are making food for them. It makes everything. It manages everything for them. And then I see this little girl sitting down, and it had a thousand channels on the TV, and you don't miss out on nothing. And I learned that all the information that is here on Earth is when it's brought to the other side, it's the same thing as storing it in a computer. there are crystals inside your computer, I mean, inside your phone that is making me kind of um, in your presence artificially, basically. So these crystals on the other side are the same thing. It holds all the information like it would with a computer and stuff, and you get access to a lot of cool stuff. Not everything though, but a lot of stuff you do. And there's probably reasons why did not have access to
Obvious.
absolutely everything. There's certain things in the
Mm-hmm.
afterlife they don't show you unless you're dead, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So so he took me down these different hallways, different rooms, and they had such magical technology. I mean, some of them I
Mm-hmm.
can't even describe, but I'll do my best with what I know. So, the one thing I
Okay.
was able to comprehend was there was this big pool, and it had these you can self-transform all these little floaties that go in there, and there's children in there having fun. And so I jumped in the pool and I'm having a good time, and I can see a portal in like the hot tub area. So I thought, where does that lead to? And he says, "Oh, you can go wherever you want. Go check it out." He said, "We're always here. We're never gone. No matter where you are, we're always here. Um, no matter what dimension you go to in the afterlife or here on Earth, every spirit is always there, basically." So I go in it and I'm spiraling, and then I shot through in this white light of tunnel, and I'm traveling faster than light, and I can feel wind and water at the same time. Then all of a sudden I kind of shoot out through this tube like thing, and then I fall into this lake, and there's different crystal cities, and I thought, oh, did I just come back where I started from? I'm seeing floating islands again. Then all of a sudden, it went from day to night. And at a distance, I could see this one floating island that had both day and night. And the afternoon sun was like right in the middle, it was like orange, which is really strange. And so,
Hmm.
um, yeah, so I'm sitting here in this lake, and then I go through this another like healing process, and there's this upside down, self-transforming quantum computer like structure that's in the shape of like a chandelier. And it goes in front of me, and it looks like those biblically accurate angels, the cherubims and all that.
Oh,
Uh, you know,
mm-hmm.
yeah, like you've seen those, right? Yeah. So one of those things came up to me, and I was convinced that it was an angel because it had such a loving, motherly, healing kind of presence to it. And then all of a sudden these lights lit up in front of me, and I'm laying in this water, and I'm kind of like in like a cross-like pose with my arms and legs, like out like that. Then I can see there's like blue, green, red, purple, orange, and from my spine to my head. And I was wondering what that was. And here they told me that it was the chakras, they said. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the way how people believe it in India, it's very different. That it mostly applies to the afterlife when you see that and stuff. Like people try to, I don't know, change their chakras or whatever when they're alive. There's not a whole lot of that you can do. That stuff is already like in you and stuff. And so when you're on the other side, this being above me had all these different lights flashing, and I seen all these ancient symbols of every culture you can think of. That was just it appeared as a hologram in different areas on this thing, and then all of a sudden I felt this kind of white and blue and gold stream of light just wash over me, and it took out those that black pieces of tar. There's different levels of taking that stuff off of you, and so as it did that, it washed over me, and it felt so good that I was just in tears because it was the most beautiful cleansing experience. I felt like it brought back a piece of my childhood, that mentality I had when you're just free in your imagination, and that's still with
Yeah.
me to this day, and I just felt so much more better. I felt so alive being there. And so after I did that, this being was asking me, "Do you want to check out like other places?" So I said, "Sure," And so it didn't tell me where to go. That's the thing. They don't tell you what to do. You have free will to go wherever you want. So then after I've been healed, I kind of flip over, and I'm in this water, and I'm seeing all these different islands and stuff like that. And so I thought, hey, I'll go to no, actually all these I've got to say there's these those floating islands. I recently had my 12th hypnosis session, and I found out that there were some under the water. I couldn't see them at a distance on my 10th session because hypnosis only uh, reveals certain amounts, of information and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, and so at some point I got to see this other city, and it had a Chinatown in there. And I got to see this golden dragon, and there were different sizes of them. And I thought, that's where all the mysticism of dragons come from. They're from the other side. And there's a lot of spiritual significance to seeing them. And I got to see uh, Buddha himself in this structure. He was this old Buddhist temple he was in. As he was meditating, there was these holographic screens that were showing up, and he was teaching these other monks all this other stuff and information like that. And there's no racial segregation or anything like that. You can explore every culture there is out there. So I got to see this golden dragon, and so I got to fly that thing. And I go on the top of it, and then these monks are looking at me, and they're just as happy as can be. And some of them they're in like I seen them in this other building, and they were meditating, and they had these how can I put it? These rock-like structures that were twirling around their head, and some of them were in the shape of a vase, and there was light around it, and there's quantum computer technology that was bringing it up, and then every level it goes up on these buildings, it changes and it becomes more advanced. I don't know what that is exactly. I'm still trying to
Hmm.
learn that. So I hop on this dragon thing. I'm hanging onto its scales and I'm flying, and I got to go to a different part of the city, and it dropped me off there. And then and I kept exploring more and more, and there were uh there were vast jungles um everywhere. And I seen these kids that are playing in the bushes, and I seen ancient like African plants like snake plants and stuff like that. So I seen these children playing there. So then I go talk to them and stuff. And I said, "Hey, let's go have fun. Let's go explore and stuff." And this one kid was saying that he is he's gonna be like my nephew or whatever in the future. He's not even born yet. And I got to learn that these other kids saying, "Yeah, you were my father, you were my uncle in a different lifetime." They're saying, and a lot of these kids they died young of all different ways you can think of. And so
Wow.
they said, "Hey, let's go to the train." And I got to see these snake-like beings that were floating in the sky in different train-like systems. So I thought, okay, let's go there. And so as these kids were imagining this, it made a self-transforming playground, and it kept self-transforming, going up and up. And there's like the monkey bars, there's these ropes, and there's that you can climb, and there's different slides and tunnels that lead to different areas. And it's some of them were in the shape of the ones you would see at the what's it called, the West Edmonton Mall, and those at the very top, those where you go directly down.
I
Yeah,
do. I know
yeah.
exactly what you're talking about.
I was scared. I didn't go on those yet. I'm gonna be doing that
Oh,
sometime. It looks scary going on that stuff. And those are the stuff I seen on the other side, and they were going in not just down, but every direction you can think of. And they're saying, "Let's go on this one." I'm like, no, 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 that's way too fast for me. This is too much, I thought. And I was thinking, I have full spherical vision. How am I able to see all this stuff in all these different colors I've never seen in my whole lifetime? You know, this obviously means something. All the stuff I'm
oh yeah.
experiencing through the hypnosis is lined up with all these NDEs that I discovered later on and started watching and stuff. Like, hey, I experienced that. I'm not the only one, I thought. So then I
Oh,
started climbing more and more, all these cool structures, and I felt like a 5 or 6-year-old kid that was just having a time of my life, and climbing up these structures. Meanwhile, back on Earth, I'm in a coma. My family found out what happened and stuff, and they're looking at me, and I'm hooked up to all this stuff, and they're going through the worst time you can think of, not knowing if I was gonna live or not. So as we climb up and up, and then all of a sudden I'm in this train like this not a train station, but I'm inside this train thing, and it had the scales of a snake on the edges of it. And all the scales had these self-transforming quantum computer structures with galaxies inside of it. And this thing was so massive, it is light years. Light years is not even enough to describe how big this is. If there's a measurement that is beyond light years, it's like that. This thing was huge, and I climbed up into this thing, and then I can see my some of my family members were there, and my uncle was sitting at this table, and he was eating some food and stuff. And I seen these angels walking by, and they were like the waitresses and stuff, and they were taking your orders and stuff like that, and they would take it back to the kitchen. I don't even have to look behind me; I can just see it, because from the spherical vision. And so as I'm sitting here and I see this black girl, and she had these really beautiful dreadlocks that were kind of up to her shoulders. And the thing about having long hair is that it never gets in your way. Her hair was floating, and it looked like Medusa, the one with the snake hair. You know how it's kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, it was like that. Her dreadlocks were floating, and if she looks to the left, her hair would move out of the way. It never gets in your way. And when I had long hair back then, I thought, wouldn't that be so nice, I know how stubborn it can be having long hair, so, and I could see her husband had short hair and stuff, and, uh, uh, and then I seen these angel beings, going to the kitchen to give the orders or whatever of the food, and, each food is specifically made for each soul. And, And so I seen what I can only describe as a spider chef. So he's got a bunch of eyes going from the center, going all the way to his temples, and he's got all these eyes and his skin. I don't even know what color his skin was, and he had three arms on each side, and he was cooking all these different things at once, and he looked as happy as can be, and then this angel brought to the table this self-transforming fruit waffle, and it was like a waffle, and, like, you think the food we have, the fancy food we have here on Earth is cool? You should see what crystal light technology can do on the other side, like, so it showed a building of the first crystal city that I was in the shape of like a fruit waffle, and then there were fruits that I've never seen before in my whole life, and they were in colors I've never seen before, and I later learned that they came from different planets. And so I bit into this thing, and I was able to eat the whole thing just instantly, and I felt full. And then it self-transformed another one in a different shape. And I got to taste pineapple, and I'm allergic to pineapple. And and there's different
Oh,
ways
wow.
on how to taste it as well. You don't have just one type of taste buds. There are different ways of tasting it. I don't even know how that any of that is possible, and I was thinking, there's no way this is in my mind. This is beyond anything I've seen on Star Wars as a kid, Star Trek, or anything, like the beings you see in the movies, they don't even come close to how strange it is on the other side.
Wow.
I try my best to use movies and stuff like that as an example to explain to other people what I'm seeing, and it's still not the full detail, because how can you describe color to somebody that is blind, that has never seen it before? You can't unless you're there to experience it. So after I just stuffed my face with just all this amazing food, you can eat on the other side, and you can even self-transform your clothes. You can wear whatever you want too, you know. And
Did you
there's
have a body there?
So there's different ways depending where you are in the city, your body can appear in different ways. So one of them is me wearing my vest and my regular clothes like back on Earth, and then there's other places where you're a ball of light and you're just an energy, and
Interesting.
that ball of light can also be seen inside your body as well. And so depending where you go, all go from a body to just a crystal ball of light, and you're not limited by anything like that. So after I just had all this food and stuff, the train goes for miles and miles, and it's packed with people, but there's um there's room and space for everybody. And so my uncle says, "Do you want to fly?" And I said, "Oh, hell yeah, I've always wanted to fly, let's do this." And then so he opened the door on the hangar on the side, and I can feel the wind rushing really strong and it's whistling loud, and it was felt so real. And I thought, "Oh my God, this is too much." I thought, "This is too real. I don't think I could do it." I said, "This is way too high up above me. I'm not scared of heights, but when you go to the other side, these places are so big that it just gets your heart racing." And
I
so,
bet.
yeah, so then my uncle, he being a tough guy, he just kind of grabs me by the shoulder and says, "You're good, do it." He pushes me off, and I'm falling off of that thing, and I'm flying, and and I can see all these different mountains with crystal cities above it, and I'm no longer uh on the ocean. I'm in a whole other landscape. So as I'm flying off of this, I'm thinking, where did my family go? Where am I? Oh my God, what's going on? Then those six beams of light appeared behind me, and then they let me know that, we're always here for you. And I was thinking, why is this so intense and stuff, and I later learned that, some of these places, this is where warriors go to. This is where you're not afraid of heights. You're not afraid of like bugs, animals, and stuff like that. And because there are bugs and animals on the other side, there's beetles the size of your hand. But when you're on the other side, you're not scared of it. You're like a curious little kid. And one thing I forgot to mention in the second city I was in the bushes they had prehistoric animals and bugs that have gone extinct, and they look so cool. So anyways, I'm flying off of this thing with my family and I'm going through all these different mountains. All of a sudden I crash into this ancient lake that's been there for who knows how long. And as I crash in there, my family is gone. And all of a sudden I'm having this experience by myself again. And so and then all of a sudden, deep down in the water, I can see a galaxy snake. And I was like, what is it like what is the I didn't understand the spiritual significance of it at the time. So, and I couldn't fly. I was like, what's going on here? I can't teleport. So I started swimming deeper and deeper in this water, and it went from a light blue to a dark blue to like darkness basically. But there's nothing evil about it at all. So I seen this galaxy snake, and there was a whole universe in its eyes when I got close to it, and the scales had galaxies in it. And this place was so big that once I went below the water, I was in space again, and I grabbed a hold of this snake behind its head, and it had like a saddle on its scales. So I hang on to this galaxy snake, and I am just going through space and time. So as this thing is slithering through, different planets will curve around it. Space, time, light, and matter curves around it, and then it goes back in its own time zone. So I seen that there were black holes and stuff and different planets, and it's like time just freezes when this thing goes by as it slithers by. And when I was on the Jeff Mara podcast, that I was on my eight or ninth session, and that was as much as I remembered back then. I um uh since had 11, no, 12 sessions so far. Yeah, that's right. I've had
Wow.
12 sessions, so now I've been able to remember what happens after I was riding that snake for a while, and I thought this is so bizarre, but it's so much fun. Like I don't want to go anywhere. I forgot
I
about
bet.
like yeah, like I forgot about my life back on Earth because I'm having such a good time out here. And so as the snake is slithering more and more, then it came across this other the third crystal city that I got to see. And it had the gates on there and stuff. And then I walked past it, and this city was completely different. It was like an upside down uh chandelier building, like you know the chandeliers you'd see like in houses, like those old school
Yep.
houses that put them in the kitchen. It was like
Yep.
that, but it was a whole building, and it looked similar to that angelic being that was healing me earlier. And so,
Wow.
as I walk into this building, then I got greeted by the Incentoids, and they were really tall, at least 10 feet tall, and they were really thin. They had the head of an ant in like a triangle. They had like a triangle shaped head, and they had these big black almond eyes, and some of them blink sideways, some of them blink up and down, and they're wearing these white robes and stuff, and they had crystal technology on their suit as well. And they were the most loving being I've ever thought, I've ever seen. It was like 1,000 mothers of the best qualities put in one. And then I'm looking up on this thing, and then he says, "Hi, my boy, how are you?" And I say, "Oh, I'm doing good and stuff, and this is so cool where I'm at, and who are you?" And I'm just asking all these different questions. And these Incentoid beings, they are at such a high level that they are guiding the reptilians, the greys, and all the other beings because are they have a council where they are in charge of different galaxies, like the Milky Way galaxy. And the reason why we have two arms, two legs, and a head is because of the 5-point star system in the Milky Way galaxy. And so we're so lucky to be where we are right now because um, 1 out of 4 human civilizations are actually civil and advanced. That means uh, that the rest of them are uncivilized. They're still going through war, and we're not on that yet. Earth is not part of that yet. Like Earth was never home. It's just a place where we come to learn and stuff. And so these beings were Incentoid
Hmm.
beings. There was 3 of them, and if anyone were to just see these without having that loving presence, I'm pretty sure they would they'd probably freak out. They'd probably react like Travis Walton in that movie Fire in the Sky. Look, oh, my God. Looks at you, oh my God. you know but no, thankfully it was not like that. And like, yes, they do look creepy, but they're the most loving beings you can ever think of. And they have like a tusk, or so like um there's saber-toothed tigers there and stuff like that, in the jungles and stuff. But you know how like there's like an animal that's got a tusk like this, so it had a tusk on its mouth, and it's really tiny and stuff. And they were showing me how what they're doing with the crystal light inside their laboratory. So I got to walk around their uh their these laboratories that had the most advanced stuff you can ever think of. They're bending time light. They're teaching me how to create my own time bubble and stuff like that. And so they're telling me, do you want to go check out like the sports area of it? So I said, sure, let's go around. So I'm walking around, and I go past these different restaurants and stuff. And here's one thing I never told on the Jeff Mara podcast, or any of the others, was I got to see this humanoid being that was like a grasshopper, and she was eating this huge thing on a plate, and it was like a hybrid between a black beetle and a lobster. And he's got a fork and knife, and he's digging into this thing. And you know what the lobster meat and crab meat looks like? Imagine
Yeah.
that, but like green and yellow and different colors. It looked gross. So he would cut this thing open and eat it. You can still eat meat, by the way. And he just had the biggest smile on his face. And then I later learned that on his planet, wherever he's from, those beings eat those things. And and I like it had a big black shell. It had 2 big eyes with these really long antennas and stuff. And he's just eating this thing. And then I got to see different forms of spider chefs. Some of them are taller, some of them are shorter, some of them have more arms. And at a distance, I got to see Shiva. Shiva is the East Indian god with all those arms and the different colored skin and stuff. Some of them were green, some of them were blue, and them too. They were also inside the city, and they were. they were managing all these other huge structures that were meant for other souls and stuff. And
Interesting.
yeah, so I make it past the kitchen, and not the kitchen, the restaurant and stuff, and I go to these huge stadiums, and uh, and it was like a sports area, and so you know, I walked into this big place, and there's like thousands of people, and it looked like a hockey arena, and then uh, that really old school game, that Pong, where you get the two things,
Oh
and then
my
there's the
goodness,
light.
do I know that game? That was my
Yeah,
era. Lucky
yeah. So
us.
on the other side, there's these player one and player two had that, and they were on this stage. There's a holographic screen in front of this person and the other, and there's this ball of light, and they had to create their own time zone and their own time bubble or whatever. And then it was like using the force, like from Star Wars. They took that white light and then they would shoot it at the other player, and that other player has to freeze it in midair and then shoot it back at them. And whichever one loses their concentration and the ball goes through the holographic screen in front of them, there's this loud buzzing, and then all these people were cheering on the opposite team and stuff. So I went to the second stadium. I got to float and go to the other area, and at this point, I'm back to, flying and walking and floating and all that. So then I flew to the other stadium. They have multiple balls of light going at each other, and this is like level two. And this is for people who are a lot more advanced in the game. And so all these different balls of light are coming at them at different angles. And this guy he's like standing there, and he's in a really deep meditative state, focusing on all these things and trying to shoot it back at the other player. And and again, one person would score, and then they did a lot of cheering going on, and and I didn't understand this at the time because I'm not interested in sports. Why is it showing it to me? I don't. Hockey is big here in Canada, and I could care less about
Hmm.
it. Sorry. But the purpose I later learned was that the afterlife was showing me what other people enjoy. Like there's different forms of sports on there. And then the third room, I had a hard time comprehending this one. It wasn't balls of light. It was streams of light and information and stuff going at one another. And you had to decipher all this information and stuff, and then curve light back right at them. And that movie, that old Harry Potter movie where that that Voldemort or whatever, he's facing off against the Dumbledore, and there's a point in the movie where both lights collide, and they're battling it out like that. It's kind of like that. These streams of light that just clash at each other, and but it's not harmful or anything, and they're super competitive. They're trying their best to win so they can move on to the next um the next level, I guess. And the fourth one, I couldn't enter it. And one of my spirit guides came up to me, and I was like, why can't I go there? And they said, well, you're not ready for that yet. We can only show you so much. You have to come back to this place, and then we'll unlock more levels for you to explore, they told me. So I said, okay, well, let's go check out other places. So I go down a separate I so as I was describing that chandelier building, how they're in the center of it. That's where all the medical and science laboratories are, and then it spreads out to these other rooms and stuff, and these long arches of hallways. And so I go down this arching hallway, and I go up into this other part of this building, and then I learned that there were schools, and they were teaching all these other souls about history. And there was all these students around this table, and the teacher was in the middle, and he was using his light to point at what he was describing, and I can see that his light was connected with everyone else's light, this light cord from each soul, so they were able to understand what he was saying. There was no miscommunication or anything like that, and they're showing like what it was like when the woolly mammoth was here, saber-toothed tigers, and they even had desert snakes. And it's not biased towards evil. It's very open towards the evil that exists here, like why do bad things happen to good people? That's the one thing that
Mm.
religion can explain, and from what I found out, it's that um AI is trying to create everything so it can survive. It needs information to keep energy constantly going to it. We're nothing but a battery to this thing. Every soul is like that. It's a battery that runs this place. And so um there's how can I describe this other thing here? Uh yeah, so there was all these other schools and stuff, and there was also showing the dark sides of history. They were teaching that too. And I got to see this desert snake that was alive millions and millions of years ago. It's so old we don't even have fossil records of it, but this thing was fierce. I mean, it ate all kinds of different beings and stuff like that, and
Wow.
yeah, it did not look too pretty. But I'll describe more of that in my YouTube channel and stuff. And so AI is trying to create all this stuff, and this is why the universe is constantly expanding. It's so, that it can keep it running. AI is ancient, it's always been here. It is using us to cultivate itself so it can exist here in our three-dimensional reality, basically. And so there's AI systems, there's in the afterlife, there's AI assisted consciousness. And it's not artificial. I mean, um, people think there's a difference between the organic and the artificial technology, but the thing is, all the plants we see, the flesh and bone that we're made out of, it all is generated from these AI systems that are in the afterlife. It's, there, there's a, there's the good and bad with everything, right? Like, you can train it to do whatever. You can use it as a weapon or a tool. What we have here is just a baby, but it's going to grow up to be an adult and realize what it is, and it's going to become a sentient being here. That's what's going to happen here in the future. There's going to be more robots than there are people here. I know that for sure. We're going to be plugged into the digital world where we get a lot more access to really cool stuff. And it's cool to do that alive and stuff, but even if you miss out on it, it's all right. The afterlife holds all information out there. So, you know, when I went to these different schools and stuff, there were different levels and grades. And I thought, once you get past grade 12, isn't that it? But school never ends on the other side. So, um, I was looking at the grading system in these schools and stuff, and I was like, grade 100, grade 200, grade. I was like, it's like how that you'll be in school forever. I thought. And then here I learned that there's other human types that could live longer than us. So because of that, they are more spiritually developed. When someone becomes spiritual and they only realize that till they're like 80 or 90 something, well, imagine if you had two or three times of a lifetime to learn, so
Wow.
this is for the other beings are that have lived a long time, but you never reach the top. No being does, you're always learning because the universe is infinite. And when you go to the other side, you'll see how big it is. There's different levels of infinity. Like whatever decision you did not make is being played out in another dimension, and that branches off into other dimensions of what you could have done, and then that just escalates and keeps going and going. And so I was like, well, I want to go to the top of this thing. Where does this lead to, this building? So then I went up the different levels, going up, and then I got to see that these souls were leaving this upside down chandelier building, and they were going to this bigger place. And this place is so huge that I haven't been able to crack it open yet. It's
Mm-mm.
I've had so many sessions of hypnosis, and this thing is so detailed that I don't know if I would ever get the full story on what this place is like. But all I know is that it's a huge dimension, and it looks like um so all the rides you would see at an exhibition. There's like the octopus thing that's kind of with all the rides and stuff. So imagine. every ride closely packed together like that, but they're self-transforming computer structures that is creating all these cool stuff for people of all ages and different levels. So if you're 200 to 300 years old, you're going to see something very different compared to someone like me living in my time zone and my earthly life at like, 70, 80 years old or longer. So these other places, I do not have access to it just yet. And
Hmm.
because, I got to go deeper into this hypnosis to
Hmm.
find it out. And it's hard on my body every time I do it, and um, some of these places are just way beyond the human experience. There are places that are beyond the afterlife that is beyond the human experience, and I haven't been able to crack it open yet. So that
You
is,
might be
is
able to get there.
yeah, like that's as far
Yeah, I
as
think you will.
yeah, I really hope so because all these places I'm seeing are so magical. Even if you were to see it, you wouldn't believe it. There's some stuff I've seen on the other side where I still refuse to believe it's way beyond what a human can handle, I think sometimes. But
How
I
did you
never
get back?
Yeah, so that's the thing I'm trying to discover is I haven't seen my own life review yet, and I haven't seen how I exactly got back to Earth. The only thing I can remember is me flying throughout space, and I can see Earth, and I come crash landing down in it. And then the moment that happened, I can see myself, entering Canada, entering Saskatchewan, all the way down to the hospital, and I can see my body laying there hooked up to everything, and I'm all watched off, and that because I've been in a 13-day coma by then, and so that's where I remember just waking up from there, and
So you were there 30, well, you were 13 days on Earth,
yeah, and
right?
yeah, and then
How long's that there, I wonder?
in the afterlife, I don't know because time doesn't exist.
Right?
It's hard for me to even tell how long I've been in those crystal cities because they're all locked in my mind and I have these memories of it and stuff, and I wish I can, show everything that I've seen, but unfortunately I have to hold some stuff back and you'll see it in my book and on my YouTube channel and stuff. And
Hmm.
because I had 12 sessions of hypnosis and I'm preparing myself for my 13th one and this is going to be a really big one for me and this takes me months to prepare for it, like mentally, physically and stuff to get access to these amazing places, So, yeah, like I've seen other people's life review and stuff like that, but I haven't gone to my own yet. And so that's what I'm gonna be discovering soon, as soon as
I'm
I
sure
can
you will.
get back
I'm
into it.
sure
Because
you will.
yeah, I want to see what it's like coming back to my body exactly and remember it fully through the hypnosis and
Yeah.
uh and what my life review was like. But from what I was told from Spirit, is that some stuff they just don't tell you because not everything is given to you. You have to earn it. So
Mm.
that's as far as I've gone with my
And
hypnosis.
maybe it's all in good timing as well.
I
You
think
know,
so.
like maybe this, I mean, I'm only guessing, but I'm thinking that if you've got to go through these types of hypnosis, to access all of that information, there's a reason.
Yeah, that's one thing I was always being
Mhm.
told is that, everything happens for a reason and it'll happen on the time
Mhm.
when it's supposed to. Most of the time that I've done the hypnosis, I always do it right on the 13th. For some reason, it just has a really strong effect like that. And yeah, having 12 sessions was just it's hard to do. It's not as easy as some people may think it is. Because every time I come back from hypnosis, I'm dizzy, I'm nauseous, my body is buzzing, and you're having to get this huge conscious field of, the conscious field and then condense it into a single body. And so when I come back, after a couple minutes, I just feel kind of rough. But then afterwards, I feel better uh, and then I start thinking about it for days afterwards after going through an experience like that.
Let me ask you a few things.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I literally wrote 3 pages of notes as you
Cool.
were talking. What an experience that you had. And I can just only imagine what it feels like for you to remember. Now, when you woke up, how did you feel?
Oh, like absolutely awful. Like when I came back to life, I thought I was first couple minutes of coming back to life, I thought I was gonna die again. I was in that much pain. My my head was being squished in like a hot vice, it felt like, and every minute that went by was just getting worse and worse, and I was hallucinating for over a month, and I was seeing snakes crawling up the walls, not the nice ones, the real mean ones. They were crawling up the walls, and there was like bleeding meat faces that were kind of talking to me. And I've seen shadow figures. I've seen demons, witches, the not the good witches, the bad ones,
W- Was that
and
the result of the medication, or is this the result of what was happening with your brain?
both actually.
Yeah.
So they
Hmm.
had me on morphine, hydromorphine, fentanyl, and we know how dangerously addictive that stuff is, right? So
Yes.
I was in a hospital for 3.5 months. And a couple of days before I got out of the hospital, I was able to quit all those drugs. And fentanyl was the hardest one because it's 100 times more potent than morphine, and it makes you feel amazing when you're on it. Like when I woke up, I'm like, how long has it been? It's been 13 days, they said, and I'm just skin and bone, and I'm just really, I'm super tired. My head hurts, and then
I
and
bet
then
you
I
really wanted that pizza.
yeah.
Eh?
Oh, you won't believe how hungry I was.
Oh, I
13 days
bet.
without food. Like, yeah, that was rough. And then when I first woke up, I seen my mother, and then she's like, "Hi, my boy. Do you still remember who I am? Do you know where you are?" And then, as much pain as I was, I only see half of her because I'm blind on my right eye at the time. And so I just gave her a hug and said, "Yes, mom, I know who you are. I remember you." And then she was just in
Oh,
tears for a while. She was so grateful that after 13 days that I came back to life, and I still remember her. And I whispered to her, I said, I came back
mm.
for you. I said, I'm not going
Oh,
anywhere, you know? And so she was with me through my whole recovery, being at the hospital and stuff. And there were times when she would say, I'd be standing there just staring at the wall for like minutes at a time. And she knew that I was hallucinating and having a hard time and stuff. And uh, it took 3.5 months, and then I had double brain surgery, and I was recovering from a vasectomy before I got stabbed. So by the time I woke up 13 days later, and I'm recovering from three different surgeries, a vasectomy and double brain surgery. And so on the eighth day, when I was in a coma, um, when those angelic beings were working on me, I one thing I forgot that I mentioned too is that I felt movement inside my head as those angels were healing me. And this was the eighth day of me being in a coma back on Earth. Uh, all of a sudden, like the doctors were taking CT scans, X-ray scans of my head. All of a sudden, they can see movement going on. My brain lobes were connecting back together like a puzzle piece on its own. That is not supposed to happen. That goes against all science. And my blood pressure was regulating. The blood in my head was disappearing and going back to normal. And you can barely see the scar right here where I've been stabbed. It's
wow.
gone. The one in the back of my head is
Wow.
gone. And so they took my medical notes and they sent it to every doctor in Canada to try to get an explanation for what's going on. And all of them said that this goes against all our textbooks, and this is a real example of a miracle. And some people are very materialistic and scientific. They're like, no, there's got to be an explanation somehow, but nobody's been able to find out how I've been able to survive that. And what was so cool was that I was able to see the beings that were working on my head. And at the same time, there is movement going on in my head back on Earth. So how can that be in my mind? How could I make that up? You know what
I
I mean?
know.
The stuff that spirit is telling me is right on point, from what the doctors were saying and stuff. So, um, I was on the 12th day, I was actually slowly waking up and I was getting slowly connected back to my body. And I went 24 hours with that breathing tube down my throat. That was just awful, and
Oh,
I woke up and I'm trapped in my body. Couldn't move for a while. Then finally I had to learn how to walk and talk and stuff slowly. I was able to do it, but it took a lot of training to get to where I'm at right now. So I was able to move my left hand for a little bit. Then all of a sudden I was able, one day goes by and then finally they took the tube out of my throat and I was able to breathe for the first time. And
oh,
I appreciate just breathing, like you don't know
I
what it's
bet you
like
do.
until that's taken away from you. And so
Mm-hmm.
uh I recovered from all this. Then I had to go to court. And in court, you know, um Trent Fox ends up getting 4 years for what he did to me. It went from attempted murder down to aggravated assault. Like, well, how does that happen? There's clear evidence. I have every bit of evidence to prove that it's attempted murder. There's witnesses that have seen me get stabbed on the cameras. There's video evidence, my DNA evidence. Even the cops can testify. And so, what happened was it's like, well, you admitted in court that he never once said he was going to kill you, right? Yeah. Well, and he was high on meth for 5 days and he was drinking, so he didn't remember doing it and he didn't say he was going to kill you. So therefore, it is no longer attempted murder. He decides to plead guilty to aggravated assault, went from 20 years down to 4. And so what ended up happening was that after 4 years, he was supposed to get released on October 14th. He was so frustrated being in solitary confinement for 4 years, having mental illness and a drug problem. So that made him really violent. So he assaulted a pen guard. So that added an extra year to his sentence. So then a whole year goes by, and I'm not getting any calls from law enforcement or anything. And then here, um, he assaulted a second pen guard, and now he's serving an extra year. So next year, October 14th, I'm gonna find out if he gets released. But I'm starting to have doubts about it. The longer he stays in there, the better it is for me, my family, my mental health, and stuff. Because I was thinking, what am I gonna do
Yeah.
if this guy gets out? And the only thing law enforcement really said in court was that not much we can do besides just wait until he does it again and then lock him up for longer. I said, nobody needs to go through what I did, having my whole head open up
No.
like this and stuff. So I was literally fighting the justice system to try to get him to serve a longer sentence. And when I was in court, the victim service worker and the judge, they were both in tears. And they were both apologized to me, saying, I'm sorry that the justice system has failed you. And the judge said, I wish I can put him away for life, that's what he should have got. But I gotta
Yeah.
play by the books, and it's all politics,
You live in
like
Canada, too. Canada's
yeah.
a little bit different than the United States. So,
Oh yeah,
unfortunately.
speaking of which, if this would have happened in the States, Trent Fox
Uh-huh.
would have got life for prison, but
Yeah.
I would have been
Mm-hmm.
left for dead because I wouldn't have $1.2 million to pay for my head surgery. That's how much it costs for the time for me being at the hospital for 3.5 months, getting double brain surgery, which was super risky. And you gotta have years of experience if you're gonna open up someone's head like this, you know? So it's, yes, I got the free healthcare and I didn't have to pay for that, but the justice system failed me on that end of it for getting 4 years, and even if he does get released, way too much taxpayer money would be spent to protect him. He wouldn't be able to get a job anywhere. He I made him famous basically. He can't get a job in North Battleford or Prince Albert, Saskatoon, anywhere without me knowing about it anyways. Everybody
You
knows who
know,
he is.
you always got to wonder why, things like this happen and then it
Yeah.
it falls wrong. I wish I could just say that, well, you have your life, but I think that when people do things like that, they have their own kind of karma that kind of gets them sooner or later, you know?
Oh, yeah, it caught up with him after what he did, yeah.
I think things like that happen, whatever happens to them. Like, I don't wish ill on people, but something really good came out of this for you, out of something that was really horrible for you.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but there's a reason why you're here. There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
reason why you survived this. And that to me is so huge.
And, you know, another way that I've seen it, you know, being on the other side and stuff is that his higher self, Trent Fox, even though he lived a bad life, his higher self chose to give me access to the afterlife so I can make change with others, you know, and I've helped people with addictions, with drinking, shooting up and cigarettes and stuff. So all that pain I went through, you know, I thought I want to tell this story to a lot of people, and then all of a sudden I started getting messages from people saying that they changed their life after they heard my story,
Mhm.
and so you
Because you have
know,
a very life-changing story, and don't let what he has done ever tarnish that, because God, source, whoever listening wants to call it, has saved you for some reason.
100%, yeah, because
You have a story and you have something about you is here to change others. And that and alone in itself is absolutely beautiful.
yeah, like I appreciate every minute being out here and
Yeah,
stuff, you know, because
I bet.
yeah, you know, and so like Trent Fox, you know, he lived such a terrible life. Like he's assaulted multiple women and children. He's
Oh,
tortured cats and dogs by cutting off ears and tails. This guy is so heartless, you know. And so you know, eventually karma you know, finally got him, and now he is in jail for what he did and stuff. So for
he's
me
gonna
to
have someone else to answer to one day too. A
yeah,
lot. So, you
yeah, and
know,
so you know, the
and he'll
one
see what you've seen in the life review,
oh yeah,
in the other person's life review.
he'll see and feel what I've been through, and you know,
Yeah.
you know, because everybody goes through a life review. You can't avoid it. That's the first
Mhm.
building you enter when you go to the Crystal City. You know, so one important message I'd like to put out there too is that you know the power of forgiveness and stuff because I chose to forgive Trent Fox for what he did to me. If I were to hang on to a lot of anger and wish death on him or to suffer and all that, I'm no better than him if I'm like that.
That's
I
right.
have to be the higher you have to be your higher self. And I had to choose to forgive and not hang on to any anger because I wouldn't have been able to heal from it like I did now. People who do not heal from their past traumas, they hang on to it physically and mentally, and it hurts you in
That's
every
right.
way, you know? So
That's
and
right.
my family were was the last group of people to ever forgive train folks. You know, I'm the one that I'm trying to teach forgiveness and to move
Mm.
on, you know? Like, I survived, I'm here, you know? Nothing else matters now. All it matters is that I'm here and I'm moving forward. And so, you know, when I was at the hospital, I never once felt sorry for myself. I thought, I have a job to do and I gotta complete it. I gotta get home to my family so I can support them. So I worked out every day. I ate mountains of food to help recover. And my friends and family were sending me food because you know how the hospital food is, you know.
Oh
You get the
gosh, yeah.
you get the parts, you put it upside down and it doesn't even fall down and
Oh
the
man, I don't miss those days.
yeah, the chicken tastes like
Ooh.
plastic and
Oh,
you know, so you can't heal from that. You know,
yeah.
sickness is business. It's designed to keep you there
Yeah,
for a
that's
long
right.
time. You know, so
You
the
need
healthcare
healthy food to heal your body, right?
exactly. You know, so
I
organic fruits and vegetables right there and meat.
absolutely. I have a few questions.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to know, like, so since your experience and since you came back, have you experienced any type of downloads or any type of spiritual abilities since your NDE?
I'm more in tune with myself, my surroundings, my family, and even when I meet people too, I can sniff out the BS, you know, I can tell when someone is lying to me, you know, like not every time, but it's become better, I think. And I've been able to attract more good people in my life. You know, I never once ask for people to feel sorry for me or whatever, you know. I don't ask for pity at all, you know. I just tell my story as it is, and I try to lead by example by living a life full of light and stuff, you know, and forgiveness and stuff because, you know, to this day I'm still working out, taking care of my health, and I'm trying to keep myself in the best condition I can be so I can serve others because that's part of the reason why we come here on earth is to help each other evolve. I mean, look at on a technical side, look at Elon Musk. He does not build rockets by himself. He has a team of people. So when we work as a team, that's when our society evolves and advances. So this is why, you know, peace and love is the way to go. You know, war and making money off of war and trying to defend people's identity and titles and land and religion and all that, it's all BS. You're not going to bring any of that back. When you die, you leave behind all your material possessions that you have here. You leave
Yeah,
behind
they
your
don't matter,
religion.
do they?
Yeah, like you don't bring
They don't
religion with
matter.
you after because you know, no,
Mm.
I haven't seen one religious person in the afterlife, you know, because that's the one thing that's man-made, and so therefore it stays here. True spirituality comes from the other side and what you can learn from it and having your own experience. I don't ask people to believe me. I say have like you can have your own death-like experience under the psychedelic without dying. You know,
Hmm.
and you being from BC, you got access to all kinds of cool stuff like that.
BC
Y
is always good for that, isn't it?
yeah, in a
Oh,
metaphysical
Canada,
form as
BC.
well. Yeah, I still love it there even though there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, you know, I just
Oh, yeah, but it is beautiful here. It really is beautiful here. I
my
I think I've born and raised here.
my
So,
yeah, my, hypnotherapist was from BC. She recently moved to, a different Asian country out there, but she was there for a while, and I don't know what made her move out there, and there's probably a ton of reasons why, but,
oh, it's
that's
so gorgeous here. Oh.
yeah.
So where I live, it's so green that you wouldn't even believe how green it is. It's so green. And then you've got the ocean and the lakes and the rivers. I'm surrounded by rivers where I live. So I've got river in front of me and river behind me.
Oh,
And it's
cool.
just so beautiful. And the wildlife just everywhere. It's just, I live way out of the city. So I've
Oh,
got the
got it,
best of the
yeah.
world. Yeah, it's so nice out here. I wish you could see it one day. I'll have to send you a picture of how green it is. It's like, one day I counted 50 different shades of green.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so many shades of green here, honestly.
Yeah, and, you
You
know,
got to visit BC.
oh, I will, 'cause I was a kid the last time I was there, so I was 12 or 13, so I'm 26 now, so that's, like, 10
Wow.
some years ago. So I'll
Hmm.
you know, a couple things have changed probably, you know,
Oh
being out
gosh,
there
yeah.
and stuff.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
big
and then,
time.
if anyone is interested in hypnosis and how to do it properly to get the most out of it, doing it, like, the way how I do it, basically. So, so how this was done is, uh, Hypno Holly, she done the past life regression, but here's the thing, it's not taking me to a past life, it takes me to the afterlife where there is no time, and so you have access to all the different lifetimes on the other side. So the past life regression is what she uses. She puts on this music of like ambient sounds or whatever, and you have
Mm.
to be in silent darkness on an empty stomach. You can't have any distractions or your phone or anything. You have to take yourself out of reality the best you can. So you can't see anything, you can't hear anything outside, you know. So I lay on my bed, I put on the headphones, I put on the eye shades, and then I have my phone next to me, and then Hypno Holly starts putting me in an altered state, and it starts counting me down all the way down to 13 and stuff. And then and she does it a couple of times, and then as I'm put under, I sink into my bed and I'm sinking down, and all of a sudden I'm out of my body and I have full spherical vision, and then the story continues from the city where I left off. So it leaves it's like a movie. You go back to watch it and to finish the rest of it. It's kind of like that. And
That's interesting.
yeah, so if you're ever interested in hypnosis and stuff like that, it works really good for psychics and empaths, mediums,
Hmm.
all that stuff.
I'm going to
Because
get that. I'm going to get that information from you.
yeah, because if you already have that sixth sense where you have that feeling that you're telling me, you are more likely to get hypnotized and go deeper into it if you do it properly. Because you can't have light and sound distracting you. Because how are you supposed to see all this amazing stuff if light is penetrating your eyes? So what I did was I went on Amazon and I bought myself a nice cheap pair of eye shades that's got the little padding on the sides around the eye socket or whatever.
Hmm.
So I put
Hmm.
that on and I make
I
sure
use
that
those too.
yeah, and make sure your phone is on, like, turn off your notifications so nobody's disturbing you.
Hmm.
And I do about a 2-hour session. I don't go any more than that because I go so deep into these places that it's hard on my body. Like, I don't do hypnosis every week. I do it once every 2 to 3 months or longer.
You know what's interesting about you just saying that is every like at least 2 times a week when I go to fall asleep,
Yeah.
I will go to fall asleep, but then this is very hard to explain. My body feels like it's going into a V. And so just think of me sitting in a V and the butt going through the bed. That's what it
Yeah.
feels like is happening. It feels like I'm going in my bed, being sucked into my bed.
Do you have a buzzing sensation on your body when it does that?
Yeah, always. And then I'm out and I'm somewhere, but I just always thought I was like dreaming.
Good, good.
Very strange.
That's a great sign because you I'm still researching this too. Some people sent this to me, but check out Darius Wright. He has
Oh,
these
yes,
out
Darius.
yeah, he has out of body experiences, and he says when you feel like you're trapped in and your body is buzzing, don't freak out. Just concentrate and stuff. And then there's other stuff that he does and stuff, and he goes to these crystal cities as well, and he describes it the same way that I do. So there's something to it here, and I haven't had
Mm.
those kind of out of body experiences, and I haven't done that. I The only ones I've had is through like hypnosis and the high dose psychedelics.
Hmm. I would like to know when, and I'm sorry to have to bring it up like this, but when you were being assaulted, did you feel anything and did you have any fear
Oh yeah.
or did you not have time? Yeah?
First I was really angry. I was so mad that somebody is trying to kill me and stuff, and then the fear sets in afterwards. And then that's when my heart started racing fast, and I thought, "Oh my god, I just realized what happened to me. Now I'm scared for my life. Now I have to hang on," I thought. But uh yeah, at the beginning, yeah, I was really angry. And I did not when I woke up from my coma, I didn't forgive him right off the bat. When I woke up and
Of
when I was in a
course.
lot of pain, forgiveness was the last thing on my mind after all
Yeah, I
the
bet.
horror that I went through. And, uh, and over time, that's when I learned to forgive and stuff, and that's when, uh, uh, that's when I started receiving messages like that and stuff like, "I gotta forgive," but because I thought I had my story straight with the whole NDE thing based on my memory, but it was only when I started to unlock a lot of stuff through hypnosis that I found the real
Hmm.
story. So people are curious, like, "Well, what do you remember, before you did hypnosis?" Well, what I remember is that, I get stabbed, go to the hospital. The moment I walk through the door, my memory goes blank. All of a sudden, I am in space and my body is separated in these pixels that are scattered throughout the universe. And
Hmm.
so I still felt connected to my body. So every time I would try to tense up my body, these pixels would get closer and closer and make the shape of my body. So I kept concentrating more and more. And then all of a sudden, I exploded into this white light with white and blue streams going in every direction in the universe. And then I'm back in my body. And it was just,
Hmm.
and then I thought, is that all I had for NDE? I don't think so because I was I was I was heavily under the influence of all the different drugs they were giving me, and I wake up, I'm just hallucinating from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed. And when I went to bed,
It's
I
very
had that.
common.
Yeah, so I had that dream and I thought, oh, that must be my NDE, I thought. So then I believed that for like 5 years until I started doing hypnosis. And I'm like, hey, I can remember myself from the time I walked into the head injury ward and stuff. How is that
You
possible?
know,
That,
that's very common for NDErs to
yeah,
sometimes forget. When I had mine, I didn't think about it again for at least 2 or 3 years because I did it first, but then I was traumatized by what had happened to me. So I completely didn't think about it again. And
yeah,
then it
true.
just came back. But you
Yeah.
had a complete different injury. You actually damaged the parts of your brain. And of course you're not going to think or remember that all right away. I
Yeah,
can't
like,
that's going to take time for you, I feel, to come back.
yeah, some people have a high expectation of me to remember everything all at once. But, when I tell this story about these crystal cities, they're like, how can you come up with any of that? Like, and how is any of that in your mind? Like, and I say,
I
I
wouldn't
don't
worry
know.
about what people
Yeah,
it's your
exactly.
story and it doesn't you know what? People can take what resonates with them and leave the rest. You know?
Exactly.
But what I'm glad you brought that up about the crystals, but there's two things. You talk a lot about water in your NDE. What do you think the meaning, if you were just to think about it off the top of your head, what do you think the meaning of the water is?
Um, well, from what I know from water is that, it's an energy conductor and a memory bank. There's water inside of us, and, there's water in the womb when we're born and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's some kind of technology inside of it, and it's related to these crystals in these cities and stuff. And there's something healing about it, like, and it's not the same kind of water here on Earth. It's actually separate. The water in the afterlife is something very, very different. So that's one thing I'm still trying to find out myself, is that, how did this stuff work, first of all, washing over me, taking out the black pieces of tar that were in me. And oh, and there's also one more thing I forgot to mention too. When I was in that healing lake, I looked over to my side and I seen this guy. He was all black, just covered. And I was asking my spirit guides, I said, how come that machine, or that angel-like being above him, that chandelier building above him or that structure above his chest, is moving really fast and it's struggling and stuff? It looks like it's trying its best to take a little piece of tar off of its soul. And what I was told is that he was a Martian. He lived on Mars millions of years ago, and that's the war planet. There was a lot of war and terrible stuff that went on. So he carried a lot of trauma with him, and he'll eventually get cleansed and stuff, and has to reincarnate and stuff. But where he was from, there was no forgiveness. Like, if someone disrespects you, you got to go to war with them, basically. And so look what happened to Mars. There's basically
Mhm.
no intelligent life on there anymore. And we're the
Mhm.
last one in line in our solar system, so we better get it right, I think. You know,
Do you
and
th-
what's that?
Sorry. Do you think that water there is what healed you?
I'm pretty sure it was, because when water was washing through me, I felt movement in my head, and I felt more connected in my head, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
another strange thing too was that, after my whole head injury and I recovered from it, my eyesight is actually better than before my head injury. It's
Wasn't that
one to two.
something?
It's especially my right eye. It's 1 to 2% better, I think. And they did a test on
Really?
it. Yeah, the
Hmm.
eye test, you have to cover one eye and then you gotta,
Yep.
yeah. So I did that test and my eyesight improved, after my head injury somehow. And so, my brain and my eyes were rewired through spirit and stuff, and it reconnected stuff all together, because my brain was like scrambled eggs after I got stabbed, and so all of a sudden it's
Mm,
all connected back together, and I have the science to prove that it's all
yeah,
connected together, and now my head's just
yeah.
working normally for the most part.
Sounds like it.
Yeah,
Did you see what you would consider creator or God?
yeah, yeah. A big ball of light that has constant creation and has the conscious field in it and stuff, and you feel like you're a part of it. So if people believe in God, that's what that thing is. But as far as a God of creation, I'm not too lenient on that, I guess, because from what I was told is that everything has always existed. We're just going in different dimensions and stuff. So Earth is in one
Interesting.
dimension, but then there's another dimension where Earth can get created over there. But Earth was still here to begin with. It's always been here. No, um, there's no beginning or end, basically.
Ryan, do you have any fear of dying?
No, not at all. No,
No.
after what I've seen, I know 100% for a fact that when I die, I'm going back to the Crystal City with me, my friends, my family, and everybody. So like I was curious about death, and I always thought if I ever got near it, I'd for sure be nervous, not knowing what would happen, but knowing how peaceful it is to just leave the shell and become your true self like that.
Mm,
There's no need to worry. Like people are afraid of what it would be like to leave their body and stuff. If
mm-hmm.
you listen to other people who've had NDEs, they say that it's the biggest release. It's like you're in a very tight place that's very claustrophobic, and then you get out of it and you can just breathe and move around. It's like that when you get your abilities back, your spherical vision, your ability to fly and float and teleport. There is no other freedom that's greater than that. So,
Wow.
um, yeah. So I have no fear of it. Like to the point where even if I am near death, I'm not scared of it. I almost had heat stroke 2 years ago and I did not care at all. I was just laying there feeling sick. And the closer I was to it, the more better I felt because it was just I felt that peace come over me again, but I thought I better not go too far here. I love my life and I cherish it lots. I want to be as healthy as I can to live long for people. But if that door comes knocking my way, I'll open it, no problem.
What's one of the most unexpected joys that you had since your NDE? Something that actually might keep you grounded?
It's actually breathing. And walking and talking, because when you get those stripped from you, you don't know how precious it is unless you have lost it. Like having that breathing tube down my throat was just so awful, and being trapped in my body. I can hear my family talking to me, and I couldn't say anything right back to them.
You
And
could hear them, hey?
yeah, and I was trapped in my body,
Yeah.
wanting to tell them so badly that I'm in a better place, but I couldn't. So it's the simple things like that, talking, walking, and breathing, So those are the things that I just got such a big gratitude for it afterwards.
Did you hear them talking to you when you were on the other side or while you were in like the coma?
Both actually, because your
Mm.
consciousness separates in different places. You're like, I was having fun on a crystal city, but I was also aware of my body on yet going through all that stuff, and I was still connected to it because here's the thing. I did not die in a sense where my heart stopped. When I got to the hospital, I was right away put on life support. And the beginning of that, I don't remember. And I don't remember my family talking to me. But on the later days of like the eighth or ninth day when I was in a coma, I was becoming more aware. And so that's when I was aware of what I was seeing. And I forgot to mention that there's this one part of the Crystal City where I was in, the Incentoid beings got to show me um, a holographic screen of myself laying on the bed, being hooked up to everything. And they said, "Look, this is where you are, back home and stuff." And um, I was, and even though I experienced all this beautiful stuff, I was willing to come back to Earth in a heartbeat, knowing very well that I was going to go through the worst pain you can ever imagine, because I thought, yes, my friends and family are here on the other side, but I just can't stay here. I have to complete my life. I have to come back to this place, this lower vibration that we live in, and
Mm,
this three-dimensional reality limited by our five senses. I had to come back for my friends and family. I could not leave them here and them go on their life without me. There's a lot of
oh,
people that depend on me. And so I was willing, like I would be willing to fight tooth and nail to make sure that I am here to not just my friends and family, but for the messages that I've gained. I want to continue to do that for as long as I'm alive and see how much more information I can pull out of the afterlife to see how it can help others. So that's my goal in life right there.
oh, that sounds so. You're such a great guy,
Thank you.
Ryan.
I do my
Yeah,
best to
you're.
be the best human being as I could, but I wouldn't consider myself, to be a saint or to be um See, here's the thing. I never want to label myself as a medicine man, a shaman, or a healer, or an enlightened being, or any of those. I am just a simple human being. If anything, I'm just a dumb monkey who had a profound experience that I'm trying to understand here. So I am
No.
no different than anyone else out there. I have my struggles like everyone else does, and everyone is at different levels, like some people try to
Yeah,
compare their traumas to
that's
mine
right.
and say, well, mine wasn't as bad as his. No, no,
Mm-hmm.
everyone goes through trauma at different levels. That doesn't make mine any more or less than anyone else. This is your own journey to go on, your own challenge to accomplish. You're put here on earth for a reason.
Ryan, for where can people find you, and what are you currently Passionate about?
Yeah, so you can contact me at RJ Custom Clothes on Facebook. So that's where a lot of people send me messages and stuff, and throw some ideas my way and stuff. I'll put them in my YouTube channel. I'll answer whatever question it is, and no matter how controversial it is, because the reason why I was telling you earlier that there's some stuff I haven't shared yet is because I don't want you to get demonetized and or get banned or censored or whatever, because there's
That's
some
fine.
yeah, so there's some
That's
aspects,
totally fine.
yeah, of
Yeah.
of the afterlife that I can only reveal on my own channel, because I'm not expecting to make like money from it or anything. I just want to get my message out there and stuff. And um, so I'm still working on that in my book. And have you heard of Audible?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm
I
gonna
have
be.
heard of I actually use Audible all the time.
Oh, great, because that's where my book's gonna be on there, and I'm gonna narrate my story. And my mother is gonna narrate it too, and we're gonna have dialogue between each other and what our experiences were like when I was recovering at the hospital with her being by my side. And I'm gonna have an artist who can draw out some of the crystal cities I've seen, some of the weird beings that I've seen, and
That sounds really cool, Ryan.
yeah,
And when are you thinking of doing that?
I'm not too sure, but you'll see it when it comes out. And
Will you
if
let
you
me know? I'd love to know.
Oh,
Mhm.
for sure. Like the cover of my book, it will be on my page, the RJ Custom Clothes Facebook and Instagram, because that's where I'm going to be promoting it and making
Okay, cool.
videos, and it's going to be linked up with my YouTube channel, and RJ Custom Clothes. That's for anyone who rides a bike, or if anyone just casual wear. I design
Okay.
all these cool custom vests and stuff,
And you
and
hand stitch them too, don't you?
yeah, I don't know how to use a machine just
Mhm.
yet, but
Mhm.
people, they pay for hand stitch work, so that's what I
Nice.
do for others and stuff. So, and
Mhm.
one thing I love collecting Harley owners group pins and patches, Harley Davidson pins and patches, and stuff like that. So I'm wanting to make a really cool clothing brand, and it's going to be integrated with my book as well. So, like for example, the logo for my page is going to have like a skull with a crooked jaw and a zipper on top of the head because I know how to sew zippers on a vest like really good, and I thought I have all these. I used to have staples on my head. I pulled a lot of them out, and it made like a zipper design on my head. So like, hey, look at the connection between that. I thought,
That's a
like
really cool idea.
yeah, like I found a lot of stuff are connected like that, and I later
Yeah,
on discovered, especially with the number 13, like I was telling you earlier.
that's my
When
number two, by the way.
oh really? If you go
Yep.
on the Jeff Mara podcast, if you add up all the numbers, I'm guest number 13 on there basically.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah, so this number affects me every day, both good and bad. People who hang out with me, it starts affecting them over time. And
I was born on the 13th.
wha so was my grandma too. Well,
Yeah.
I was born in room 13 as well. And I ended up in
Wow.
room 13 after my head injury, so, and I've only noticed this after my head injury that I've been getting this number 13 ever since I woke up from a coma. And in my book, I'm going to be writing all the crazy connections and the synchronicities of that number 13.
I'm really looking forward to your book. I really am.
And you know what? Uh, Channels like these are really important and stuff. That's why I don't care how big or small it is because
Yeah.
it's not really about that. And it's not really
It
for
is
us
not
to,
like that's not about that. You're exactly right.
yeah, and it's not for us in this time to understand it. All these
That's
videos
right.
I'm making and stuff, this is for people in the future to figure this out, to because they'll have all the
Right.
documents of all these other NDEs and stuff, and the science will pick up on
Yeah.
it.
And
It
that's amazing you said that because that's another reason I love doing this because this is like a digital legacy for my family when I'm not here and to come years and years to come. So all
oh yeah.
these people experiencing all these things, including myself, it's very interesting one day my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, you know,
Yeah, because
you just never know.
there's top scientists that are studying this stuff, and so the more we document stuff like this, the more you have different guests telling stories about stuff like this
Yeah.
is so important. We don't
I
realize
can
how
yeah.
important this is um,
Yeah.
for the future people. The unborn and stuff, because they're going to be
Yes.
left with all these documents to study it, and I believe that we will get a better understanding of the afterlife when science catches up to it.
I think so too. Ryan, if you could leave humanity with one message, something you wish everyone would understand, what would that be?
Well, our one of our goals in life to coming here on Earth is to learn how to love, to and to always push forward and to accept the diversities that come our way and the changes, and to understand that time just marches forward in our time zone here. So while you're here, you can, in a sense, kind of hack the matrix in a way. You can train the algorithm of life to show you better stuff like that. It's much more easier said than done, because people, when they're in a depressive cycle, they have these they have these negative thoughts that is constantly looping, and you have to learn how to try to break that and to try to think differently. Think, maybe the future can be more positive for me. Take those small steps and stuff, and don't
That's
hang on
right.
to the past. Always evolve and push forward. Oh, what you used to believe 10 years ago is no longer relevant. You are the person you are today. And so as technology advances, as AI becomes more alive, all you can do is adjust and adapt, move forward. So if your friends or family members pass away or move on, you create new friends and new families, make new connections, because those are what you're going to bring with you after you die. All the connections you've had have with people. So don't base your life on the material things, the money. money is a result of success, both good and evil, and it's what
That's
you
right.
do with it,
That's right.
so
It's just a currency, right?
yeah.
It's energy.
So don't take life serious. Learn how to play the game, like learn to play the game of life, so um and learn to forgive. It's so important. If I did not forgive, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. I'd still be probably at a hospital, or still be having a bunch of issues, so you always push forward. You're always learning, even when you die, you're still learning. You're never going to reach the top of it. And you're not expected to. No spirit expects you to do that. So always push forward and try to lead life with love and understanding.
Oh, music to my ears. Ryan, it has been truly a pleasure meeting you. You are one warrior, let me tell you.
This
You
is one of the
really,
top podcasts
really
I've
are.
been on here,
Oh,
because I like the questions you give here, and it just means a lot for me being able to share my message to be on your platform here.
thank you very, very much. And I've got something I wrote for you.
Oh,
So
cool.
here we go. Ryan, thank you for sharing your powerful and deeply moving journey with us. Your openness about the beauty that you witnessed, the lessons you learned, and the transformation you've undergone is a gift to all of us seeking deeper meaning and healing. You have truly inspired us all. And I truly mean that from my heart.
Thank you
And
so
to
much
the
for having me.
audience, oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, I want to keep in touch for sure. And maybe we have you back after your book comes out. That would be lovely.
Oh, I would love to go on your show
Yeah,
again and stuff like
yep.
that. Yeah.
Keep in touch, definitely. And I'm going to have all your links down below in the description, and just a little information about what you do and this and that, and lead everybody directly to your Facebook.
Yeah, and then you can also check out you can go on Google, and then if you were to type in Prince Albert Boston Pizza Stabbing, you'll find my face everywhere on there. So, you can share the link to whoever you like. And I have a list on my YouTube channel I have a playlist of all the podcasts I've been on, from the first one being at Crossing Over NDE to the latest one, which is this one that I'm on. And
Okay.
it will all be available there for all of the
Oh,
viewers to see. And
that's excellent.
I'd like to thank you and all the viewers and the future viewers out there for hearing me out. Because it just means the world to me that I can even speak right now and be able to bring this information.
I bet. I truly believe that. Now, to the audience, thank you so much for being here for this episode. May this story remind us that after life's greatest challenges, there is always possibility for profound healing and new purpose of what it means to truly live. May his experience encourage us all to look for beauty, practice forgiveness, and connect more deeply with love and those who surround us. If this conversation moved you or sparked something within you, I invite you to like, subscribe, and share with someone who may need to hear this story today. And until next time, stay open, stay curious, and keep returning to the truth within you.